Hello everyone, Cassie here. Welcome back for another Heffy Doodle video. Today I'm going to be making a card for the Fall Flare Heffy Doodler Challenge over on Facebook. Let me talk about the products we're going to be using. I'm showing those and I'll talk about them a little bit more. This is our skinny Imperial rectangle frames. We have our falling leaf stencil, and what you saw earlier was our warm hugs jumbo sentiment and our forest leaves dies. So let's jump into what we're making. I have a piece of craft cardstock that I'm going to tack down to my glass mat, and I've pulled out that falling leaves stencil. You can see that I have an array of about 5 different distress oxide colors that I thought would be good fall colors. I'm bringing in my Heffy tape. We're going to tack everything down, and then I'm going to bring in some blender brushes. These are distress oxides. This same effect isn't going to be as effective on that craft cardstock if you were using just distress inks. This is why I've chosen distress oxides. They will show up beautifully on darker cardstocks, and you'll see that when I pull this away. The colors that I was using are Crackling Campfire, we've got Rusty Hinge, Spice Marmalade, Mustard Seed, and this last one is Crushed Olive. And look at that background, that looks really cool. It's nice and subtle, but it is there. I'll bring in that Crackling Campfire and I'm going to splatter that all over that background. You really can't see it a whole lot, but I will bring it up to the screen so you can have an idea of how that looks. Just a little bit of splatter. I love to splatter, you guys know that. But check it out. Just adds a little something to that background. And we'll set that off to the side to dry. Now I have these little pieces of watercolor cardstock. They're trimmed down. I think they were just in my stash, and so I just trimmed them down into little pieces that I could use. And I am going to be doing that smushing technique. I have put down my color, that is that crushed olive, and I'm going to do this for each of the colors. We won't show all of that, but I'm going to do that for each of the colors. I'm drying in between so that way I can get some good texture on those backgrounds and layer those up really nicely. But yeah, I ended up doing it with all 5 of those colors. I love how these turned out. I just want to make sure that these are good and dry because I am going to run these through my die cutting machine, and you don't want those to be wet if you run that through because it will tear the paper rather than actually die cut it. So here we have our mini die cutting machine from Heffy Doodle, and I'm going to just pick 1 leaf per color, and I'm going to run that through as many times as I can because I want to have a bunch of different leaves. I love to have extras because then I can put some on the inside and have some on the outside, and I wasn't exactly sure how many I wanted or needed, so I just went ahead and used this paper up. So we're going to do that for all of those colors and all of the leaves, and we'll end up with these really colorful, pretty leaves. I'm also going to do it for our warm hugs. I've got the shadow. We're going to run that through our die cutting machine. That's with that Merlot Heffy Doodle paper, and then I have some watercolor paper that I am cutting for the actual word warm hugs, but I'm going to trim that with our mini paper trimmer. So this thing's great to have as well. Yep, just sits on the side of my desk, ready to use. And that, I mean, you guys know I use this die cutting machine all the time. So yes, it never leaves my desk. Never, because I'm always using it. This one didn't cut through all the way, but this is watercolor paper, and when I have watercolor paper, I tend to try to run it through once or twice, just kind of front and back, forward, whatever, and it works just fine usually when you do it that way. So this was a little bit thicker watercolor paper. Now I've brought in some Sunny Side Up Heffy Doodle paper, and I'm going to run one of those skinny Imperial rectangle frames through my die cutting machine for that. And I'll trim this down again with our little mini paper trimmer. And then I can put the rest away and save that. But we'll run this through that die cutting machine. This is what I'm talking about. It never leaves my desk. It is always right there. But it's nice and compact, so I can just set it off to the side. Miles is going to come in, quality control, make sure that we are on the right track. He'll get bored pretty soon here. But yeah, he needs to check things out from time to time. Of course, get a pet and then move on with his life. All right, kind of playing around with placement of how I want things. And so when I'm happy with what I think is going to happen, we'll bring in our liquid glue and we'll tack down the sentiment down to the shadow cut. I love that Merlot cardstock. And then we'll do the same thing with this skinny Imperial rectangle frame. And I want that to be a little bit wonky. I'll bring in a stamp block to kind of just push that down, make sure that that stays where it's supposed to. And then once that's dry, we'll put our warm hugs down, and this is where I'll just kind of play with the leaves and kind of see what I want to do with those. I don't have it 100% figured out. We're going to kind of go with the flow, but I'll bring in some Heffy Doodle foam strips and we'll put that on the back of the warm hugs. That will not only give this piece dimension, but it'll also make it a little bit easier to put the leaves down because we'll be able to kind of tuck them behind. I'll peel off that release paper from our Heffy Doodle foam strips, put down our warm hugs, and then I can start just placing each of these leaves in the various corners. So like I said, this is a part of a challenge. This is for the Heffy Doodler Fall Flare Challenge over on Facebook. I don't think it's quite out yet, but this will give you some, kind of get the juices flowing here. You can watch this, know that the challenge is going to be Fall Flare, and then you can start working on what you might be making for this Heffy Doodler Challenge. I'll have a link down below to the Facebook page. Go join it and you can play along. And there's always so many cute cards in there from the different participants. It is fun to see what everybody comes up with for the different challenges. All right, we're just finishing up putting all those on there. I'm going to bring in some more of that craft cardstock to be my base. That was cut down to 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches, scored at 4 1/4. This is an A2 sized card. And now I'm going to take the leftover leaves and, well, this one I decided to put on the front. I wanted just 4 of these leaves. We're going to put those in there. I think it's 4 total, yeah. So those will go on the inside of the card. This is why I always like to make extras, whether it be stamping and coloring extra elements to go on the inside, or just like this, die cutting extras. It's always fun to be able to incorporate the inside and the outside together. I'll put some more liquid glue on the outside, or on the back of my panel, and then we'll attach that down to the front of our card base. And then I'm going to bring in a couple of different sparkle mixes. I really like the sparkle mixes. 1, they're just really pretty, and 2, there are so many different elements in them, and you can mix and match. So this first one is the Firefly. It's probably my favorite. I think it's probably because we're in fall time, and I mean, maybe it just seems like it's my favorite because I've used it so much, but there's gems in there, there's different sizes of sequins, and I got what I wanted out of there. And now I'm going to bring in the Hocus Pocus, and I'm going to bring in some of the gems and some of the sequins from there as well, and we'll put those in different areas. So it's super fun to mix and match them up, and you'll have all these different fun elements on the front of your card. So once we're finished up there, that is going to finish off our card for today. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit that like button. Consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And be sure to check out all that Heffy Doodle has going on over on their blog, Facebook page, and Instagram for more crafty inspiration. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you soon.